Alright, I'd like to start by letting everyone know that this is not a return. This is me coming back for one thing, for the purpose of clearing things up. The reason I was originally brought on is the reason I am here again, and I might do this again. The likelihood is low. This community has proven multiple times to be toxic, full of people who like to turn on other leftists, and just overall a bad experience. So, although I think you are not bad people, I cannot stand working with you guys. My apologies, but this is final. The likelihood of me working on anything other than minor side projects, potentially my own stuff, unrelated to the network, is low and almost negligible.
Happy holidays. This is Jason Unruhe saying I intend to keep my promises. This year, communication became near impossible ever since the Stone Soviet was outed correctly by Dark Synovia. When he correctly criticized her, she has gone on a smear campaign, mostly scapegoating Comrade Net, many of which you may recall on December 25th, 2019, I had interviewed Comrade Net concerning tragedy in his life. Comrade Net had been placating Dr. Weisfeld for years, and I have witnessed the verbal abuse that's been thrown at him. Weisfeld's situation is very intense, but truth be told, he is a Sunday school picnic compared to what Net deals with. Before May 27, 2019, my contact with the Bundes was just this. I met Comrade Net online. He wanted me to interview him to help out the Bundes channel and growth, so I interviewed him. Several people loved the interview, but Dr. Weisfeld hated it. So he interviewed me again, and this interview was not as popular as the first one. In time, the second interview became more viewed. That same year, I did a report on Dr. Weisfeld being tortured by Zionists. After the events of May 27, 2019, Comrade Net tried to avoid the situation. Comrade number 3 wanted Net not to talk about the event. Comrade number 3 was going to send some people to deal with these cops answering to Jared 88. But Dr. Weisfeld took advantage of Comrade Net's love for his fellow Bundists. No one wanted to touch this story with a 10-foot pole, but I tried to get, there was real work to get journalism on this, and a couple of times it almost worked. But you'd be amazed how much journalists don't like to admit cops in Arizona have been part of the National Socialist Movement. Even today, the National Socialist Movement and neo-Nazi organizations work with the Jewish Defense League and the Kahanist organization. But that many of these same cops make up the majority of the clientele of Midnight Productions. I ended up being the one to interview Comrade Net. To this day, I find that the interview had been the most traumatic thing that he'd gone through. Dr. Weisfeld is not in his right mind. This has happened before. If he ever really cared about Net or Net's family, he would have not have stopped me, Nicole, Dark Synovia, from vindicating him. This year, me and Net took over the Bundes movement channel. We were holding it until Yehuda could take it from us. But every other day, Net warned Yehuda that Ebby was trying to take it back, and that it was only a matter of time before he did. Net was correct. After this, Comrade Net disowned Yehuda Shlomo. Comrade Net was actually happy that Ebby took back the channel. I don't want to go through the details of why we did this. Only that every time Ebby had been out of his mind, the only way we could respond was to suck up to him. I have sacrificed a lot for Dr. Weisfeld, that Net has sacrificed a lot for Dr. Weisfeld. He does use people as his tools. Dr. Weisfeld, what you did is wrong. You are still wrong. You have told the Palestinians and Syrians they don't know much they do about you, about the places they come from and where they live. I want both Ahmed and Red Wasp to know that I do not hold Dr. Weisfeld's neo-colonial views. Most of the convergence does not. I'm going to play some footage from Dark Synovia. After this, we will talk about the holiday season and how it is exploited by capitalism.
Nobody has put me up to this. Nobody. And certainly nobody is telling me to take off my glasses when I'm talking about a serious topic, something that I've been doing long before I met Jason, Net, and Kara. Nobody can say that. You can go back to older videos to look up it as examples of the times that I've done it. I'm doing this on the behalf of Corvid AB, formerly known as Corporal Cat, because I feel like he was wronged. The very fact is, I didn't do enough. And I'm sick and tired of the gaslighting from a narcissist who does not understand anything about how I think, a narcissist that has contempt for Gen Z, and her enabler, EB. I will not take away anything that you have done. You've done a great service to the Palestinian people. And everything you have done for all these years will not be forgotten. But that doesn't mean we cannot hold you accountable for not holding Kara Stokely into account. I don't want to do this. I really don't. I've been reluctant to do this, but I'm left with no choice. It's my responsibility. And especially as from a generation that is fucked up tremendously, who's basically looking like it's going to make things worse than even the boomers have, it is my responsibility to speak out for Corvid AB's behalf. Anyway, let's begin. Corvid AB, formerly known as Corporal Cat, goes by they/him pronouns, so do not call them by anything but what he requests. To call him by his former name is to dead name, and we don't tolerate that shit here. Corporal Cat stands basically as a comic line. As for what the contents of that comic line is, it's political. I don't know what they're going to do in it, so don't ask. As for what does AB stand for, Anarcho-Bundes. Corvid AB is an Anarcho-Bundes, and his form of socialism, he is a socialist, and to deny that he is anything but a socialist is to be an anti-Semite, and I won't fucking have anyone argue with me on this. It is as valid as Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, and Third Worldism, and I will not tell this youngster what to do. Unlike those of my generation, Corvid AB knows what's fucking up. And Corvid's not happy about what Dr. Abraham Weisfeld has done, and he promised to release the manual. And as someone that defended Weisfeld in the past, as someone that respects him, even I still do, despite whatever disagreements I may have, I think that was an injustice, honestly. Because the manual has valuable information in it. And I don't have the resources to print it and give it out to people because I'm poor as shit. And I think expecting anarchists, most of them which have no address, no social security number whatsoever, to simply walk to a library and just check out a book is unreasonable. Corvid AV has every right to be pissed of what Dr. Weisfeld has done. And I'm just going to say this, as much as I respect the man, being completely incompetent when it comes to, like, political surveillance. Like, this is 2024, almost 2025 as of this recording, which this recording of my video is December 4th. We're very close to 2025, and the very fact that he cannot understand just how the surveillance states works in this era just proves that he is incompetent. Anyone that doesn't grasp this concept is politically incompetent. Dr. Weisfeld has done amazing work. I will never take that away from him. But I think people have every right to be angry with him, especially Corvid AB, who, well, and the next part, I'll explain one of the things that pisses them off more than anything. Because, well, what happened with the massacre, let's just say there was a lot of people that weren't happy that it was reported at all. In my opinion, I will say this, I don't speak for everyone, to speak for myself. I think if there's one mistake that Net did make, was he should have waited until his family was safe out of the country before even talking about the massacre, because it hasn't really done much to really help. More people may know about it now, but at what cost? And I'm just going to say this to finish this section. You shouldn't expect people to put themselves on the line who have families, because, this movement is bigger than ourselves. And I am fucking tired of the slander against, leftists that have families, leftists that are mothers, leftists that are fathers. Because, okay, we're socialists, right? What is the point of us fighting for socialism if we're not having a world for our children and grandchildren to inherit? Because this is what we're doing it for. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're not going to see socialism in our lifetime. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for our children. And those who have a problem with people like Net prioritizing their...
You got 4 for Thanksgiving, 21 for the Lord. I haven't counted in a while, it might be a few more. And there's 7 days for spring and maybe one more in between. And then on top of all the everything, assuming I survive another 90 days, summer's gonna take my fucking life. And I would rather die. And let me make it clear, it's nobody's fault, but I think we all know that I won't make it to Montreal. And I would rather die. I'll jump before I'll fall. And I'm having lots of fun, but I won't make it to Montreal. I've got 5 pretty skirts, I've got sweaters and drawers, I've got a nice big blanket and carpeted floors. I've got lovers on lovers, friends on friends, the fucking fun just never ends. You like to talk about the future as if it's real, and when you tell me that you love me, I can almost feel it. But the wires won't connect, your blood has been rejected, and it doesn't even matter if I make it through the night, because another fucking summer's gonna take my fucking life. And I just rather die. It's boredom overall, and I'm having lots of fun, but I won't make it to Montreal. And I don't wanna die, but I'll jump before I'll fall. And did you really think so? I mean, no one fucking thought I'd make it to Montreal. It's not that it's a bad plan, no, the plan fucking slapped. I was so excited, you don't know how bad I wanted all of it. The coffee shop, the weather, the apartment, but I don't want anything anymore. I don't know, I guess I just got bored. It doesn't matter where the trolley goes this time, because soon enough the summer's gonna take my fucking life. And I would rather die. And let me make it clear, it's nobody's fault, but I think we all know that I won't make it to Montreal. And I don't wanna die, I don't wanna get left behind, but it's better have than none. I hope to God you have some fun. Go get
Montreal is all Corvid AB has ever wanted. And this is the source from his father, Net. And I tend to believe Net on this. Corvid AB, in his short life, has not experienced things that children take, for granted. Safety, security. They're constantly being forced to deal with the disgusting culture that is America. A culture that deems him the enemy because they refuse to adhere to the arbitrary standards of what is to be a proper American. They have to go to family events and deal with family members, so-called family members. I'm just going to say that from in my perspective. I cannot speak for Corvid AB on how he feels. Glorifying a day that celebrates a genocide such as Thanksgiving, while America is happily and gleefully arming Israel to use Corvid AB's culture and religion to destroy another people across the world who've done nothing wrong. This poor child. He wanted to go to Montreal. I'm not saying Canada's a great place. I don't know anything about the culture there, but Montreal would have definitely been a better place for their physical and mental health. Arizona is not a place that a child like Corvid B should be at. And I know they're not really a child, but from the perspective of someone that's in their 30s, he is a child. It's a tragedy that he can't simply just enjoy the good things in life because of their health and the harsh reality of the world. Corvid AB is part of the generation that's going to experience the worst of the fascist police state. They're going to see firsthand, as my generation does fucking nothing. I'm a millennial, I could fucking say this. As climate change ravages the planet. Corvid AB is part of Gen Z. The generation that will deal with the consequences of the boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. 3 of the worst generations in history, if you ask me. Now, regarding Arizona, regarding the massacre, it's very complicated. I don't know what I would do if I were in Net's position. I don't know. I do really feel like I think it was a lose-lose situation. I think no matter what Net did, and I'm saying this, Corvid AB, that I think your father was put in an impossible position that I don't think he would have won either way. Was it the right decision to talk about the massacre? I cannot give a definitive answer because I have to think about it from the perspective of, okay, what if I was a father? What if I was a kid that had an opportunity to get out of this country and I hated it so much? And Montreal was a place I wanted to go to. I was excited about going there because the possibility was strong that I could be there. If I were as young as you were, I don't know if I would think it would be the right thing to do to reveal what happened in the massacre. But there's those who also think, no, it should be revealed. The world should know. And for me, I don't think there's an answer I can say that's correct. Because I think no matter what, I think both choices are going to feel wrong in one way or another. Though, if there's one thing I think your father should have done differently, I think he should have prioritized his family first and got you and your mother and your sister out of Arizona first. When Matt was safe, when your family was safe, that's when he should have talked about the massacre, not before. But again, I cannot blame Nat for this either, because Nat was not put in the best position. And Corvid AB has every right to be angry about this, because this affected their one chance to leave the country, and they'll likely not get another chance. That's what's so sad. And I really, if I could right now, I would cry for you, because it's, I wouldn't be able to do what your father does. I don't think I can. I think you deserve better. Sorry. I'm not going to tell you not to be angry. I'm not going to tell you that you don't have a right to wish for things to be different. And I think this is one thing that really does need to be addressed by those who are either believe the massacre or don't. It's not so simple to say, oh, it was right for Nat to talk about it. It was, but also wasn't. Let me explain. Not everyone agreed about releasing information about the massacre. Not everyone agreed about even talking about it. There was lots of people that were against it, and there was lots of people that were for it. Nat was being pulled in both directions. And everyone that believes Nat controls everything, like that cracker Gangaros and her and fucking Kara Stokely, no. Nat was in a rock and a hard place. He did not want to talk about the massacre. Comrade number 3 did not want him to talk about it either. But between Panther Code and the anarchists, Nat couldn't just say no. Because there was many people that wanted him to. And had it not been for the anarchists, Comrade number 3 would have shut it down. He would have put his foot down. And he would have had every right to. Because not everyone understands just how fucked up Arizona is. I don't fucking know. I don't live in Arizona. I live in Southern California. I live in Orange County. This footage that you're seeing right now around you, this isn't close to Mesa, California. I'm in Orange County. Now, I could talk about Orange County because that's where I live in the Southwest. I could talk about that. But even I wouldn't be able to talk about every part of Orange County because it's a fucking large place. Arizona is a place that a lot of people just do not know about. Unless you actually live there, you're not going to understand a lot of the things that we're talking about. Like, Dr. Abraham Weisfeld actually believed that it would exposing Midnight Productions would turn the tide. It actually hasn't. It's been the opposite. Net has been slandered as a result of talking about the massacre, even more so because it's hard to prove. Because the police, of course, this doesn't just go by Arizona, they are notorious for covering up crimes that they've committed. And a lot of the people who slander Net just refuse to fucking see it, even though they know deep down it's fucking real. Now, Corvid AB was the only anarchist that I could think of that did not want to talk about the massacre. And mind you, this was a kid that wanted to go to Montreal. Excuse me, bad personation. Montreal. And I do believe it's a tragedy that Corvid AB's wishes couldn't come true, that his wishes cannot come to fruition. Because it would have helped in many different ways. It would have helped. And I do think, had not been pressured to do it, I think you would have been in a better place. And I think your father would have been in a better place. And my heart bleeds thinking about what could have been. And I'm not going to tell you how to feel about me, my generation. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about Dr. Abraham Weisfeld. I think if there's a constant that I 100% agree, is the manual should have been published. And I know I said this in an earlier part, but I'll say it here. Thinking that people could just walk into a library and just check out the manual or get a PDF is completely like not living a reality. Think about this. How many of these people that are the resistance against the state, how many of them have criminal records? How many of them escape prison? And them going anywhere like a library puts them at risk of being killed or going back. A lot of these anarchists, they burn their any sort of identification that they once possessed. They're completely off the grid. And the very fact that Weisfeld just cannot see that, it's like the surveillance in this state, in America, is more powerful today than it was during his time. And Dr. Abraham Weisfeld does not understand the Southwest. He really doesn't. And the very fact that he's not willing to listen is just political incompetence. The manual has knowledge that could be useful. I'm poor as fucking shit. There's just no way in hell I would be able to afford to basically finance for the publication of the manual. I barely have enough money to pay rent. Dr. Weisfeld has the resources to do it. And as someone that has more privilege, Dr. Weisfeld, it is his duty to help those with less resources. We're fighting against a monster, the likes of which our predecessors could only fucking dream of. The most powerful surveillance state in human history exists right now. This part of this recording was recorded December 5th or 6th, whatever. Doesn't matter. The very fact is we're very close to 2025. And with Project 2025 on its way, that will make this even worse. Increase the surveillance state even more. The fact is, people can't just go in the library and check out a book because these anarchists are off the grid. And Corvid AB is part of the disenfranchised lumpen proletariat. He will not be able to get employment because of a physical disability that he has. And I think that the slander against people with families needs to fucking stop. I think my comrade, the slander against him needs to stop. Ned has suffered a lot. And his relationship with his children and his wife suffered as a result of what he's been doing since the massacre. There's a lot that he sacrificed. And the very fact is, what does he have to show for it? And at the end of the day, the person who paid the price the most was his children. Like Corvid AB, his desire was to go to Montreal, and that opportunity has passed. 5 years ago, Corvid AB's life could have changed for the better just by simply leaving America. America is increasingly becoming a hostile place to the Jewish people. With the Trump administration, they'll be cracking down on organizations like Jewish Voices for Peace, or any Jewish organization that is against the Israeli project. Jews will be targeted by the Trump administration. Make no fucking mistake. And Corvid AB is part of the generation that understands this. Unlike my dumbass generation that has fucking not accomplished shit. Gen Z, which is what Corvid AB is a part of, understands the harsh realities. Listen to young people. That is what you could argue the failure to get Corvid AB to Montreal, along with her sister and her father and her mother, is a failure. It's a failure that Corvid AB has to pay for, and I'm feeling old. I'm not going to lie. I'm 36 as of this recording, and it's not easy for me. This kid is old enough to be my son, and it breaks my heart knowing that just a simple dream of leaving this country is forever out of his reach. Whether Dr. Weisfeld intended it or not, he broke a promise that he made to Nat and his family, and they're paying for it. Dr. Weisfeld doesn't have to pay for it because he lives in Canada, far away from any consequences. And young people being angry with him is justified. I will not go out of my way to defend him and say that he did nothing wrong. Yes, Dr. Abraham Weisfeld has done a lot of great things for the Palestinian cause. I will never take that away from him. That's one thing I will not to take away, because he's done a lot for the Palestinian cause. But you don't make promises and not keep them. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. And Corvid AB, his generation, has proven time and time again they're not going to put up with this bullshit. False promises are not going to do anything for Gen Z. Corvid AB is part of that generation. Corvid AB, his generation has had enough. Enough of the false promises, enough of the fucking of civility politics, enough of the fucking center. They had enough. All Corvid AB wanted was to go to Montreal. And now that's gone. All because Nat was pushed into doing something he did not want to do. Was it the right thing to do to talk about the massacre? I cannot honestly answer that because I do not know. There's one part of me that thinks it was the right thing to do. But looking from the perspective of a father and a child, the answer is far more complicated. Corvid AB is an example that if you're going to expect people to talk about information that's dangerous potentially, make sure to get their families to safety first. So the children and the person's like spouse doesn't suffer in the process. Enough of this anti-family bullshit, because we're fighting for the future. What's the point in fighting for a future when we don't prioritize the young? Because they are the ones that are going to be continuing the fight after we're dead. They're going to be the ones that'll be inheriting this world, whatever's left of it. Enough of this bullshit. If we're going to have a chance of building a better world for the next generation or the generation afterwards, we can't just fucking expect people like Nat and his family to put all this work and given nothing in return. Nat's just one man. He's one man. Corvid AB suffered more than Nat ever will because of revealing about the massacre. Their chances of ever leaving the country and being out of this prison house of nations has been denied. There was no plans, no consideration for Corvid AB's future. And to me, that is a shame. I don't condemn Nat for the choice that he made. I don't know what I would do. And Corvid AB, I don't know what I would have done if I was in your father's position. I do not know. But I do know this. I wouldn't want to be in that position. If it was possible, I believe every comrade out there, we should start a GoFundMe. A GoFundMe to get Nat and his family out of America and into Montreal. Let's make it happen. Whether it's practical or not, who gives a fuck? Corvid AB deserves to see Montreal. He deserves it to live in a place that would make him happy. Fuck this. Let's promise something and not deliver. Let's actually deliver. And if we could make it happen, I'm just one guy. If there's someone that be willing, that knows how to do that shit, let's fucking do it. Let's set up a Patreon. And while we're at it, even though this has nothing to do with Stan, let's do the same for him. Why not? Those who want to leave America, let's start a GoFundMe and let's fucking make it happen. Let's make a GoFundMe of leaving America. Let's make their dreams become a reality. Because that's what the new American dream is to leave it.
Don't breathe too deep. Don't think all day. Dive into work. Drive the other way. That drip of hurt, that pint of shame goes away, just play the game. You're living in America at the end of the millennium. You're living in America, leave your conscience at the tone. And when you're living in America at the end of the millennium, you're what you own. The filmmaker cannot see, and the songwriter cannot hear. Yet I see me everywhere. Angels' voices in my ear. Just tighten those shoulders. Just clench your jaw till you frown. Just don't let go, or you may drown. You're living in America at the end of the millennium. You're living in America, where it's like the Twilight Zone. And when you're living in America at the end of the millennium, you're what you own. So I see it, I hear it, I hear it, I hear it, my song. Alexi Warren song. Call me a hypocrite, I need to finish my own film. I quit dying in America at the end of the millennium. We're dying in America to come into our own. And when you're dying in America at the end of the millennium, you're not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
I have more to do. Promises to keep. Promises which Stone Soviet did much to take away to make sure we could not keep. I am sorry for this. Most of all, I am sorry to you, comrade number 3. I will make sure all press and yours get from now on is only good press.
So I've been asked to come on here and briefly kind of explain what is, a Yule log, what's its meaning. And that's kind of a little difficult to just say in a few words. So let me kind of expand the definition just slightly, in which I can basically, in simplest terms, there is no actual specifics when it comes down to a Yule log, like its dimensions, how long, how big it can be, etc. Essentially, it is a piece of wood, more specifically, some piece of lumber, from a tree that's either been cut down or fallen, whatever the case. It could be something coniferous, it could be an evergreen, it could be whatever you want to make out of it. In some cases, there's been some depictions of an entire tree being burned in order to keep the meeting halls, the tings, heated during those festivals, etc. So this sort of leaves the discretion of what constitutes a Yule log kind of up in the air for each group and individual to kind of determine upon their own. And if you are, like me, a solo practitioner, this is, that again, that is left up to your sole discretion and kind of up to you to decide what you want to do as far as your practices. It can really be something even as simple as something that you could consume. For instance, oops, did not expect that to happen. For instance, in my home, I live in an apartment. So burning a actual log is not always entirely possible or practical. I guess if one has a barbecue or something, or even some place else that they could safely perform this ritual, then by all means do that. But yeah, in my case, it's not always possible or practical to just grab a log and burn it and not look like a crazy person setting a piece of wood on fire. And especially since, I live in an actual building with floors and everything like that, that carries potential fire risk, and it's not like you can burn it out in a parking lot or something like that, or in the middle of the road. People might look at you funny and you might even get arrested. But otherwise, my solution that I do is actually much simpler, and though it may not be something that can be shared by everybody, As let me just put it this way: I live in a state, I live in an area where cannabis is legal. So every year I go to the store and I will get usually about 1 gram to sometimes even up to 2 gram blunts, and I will come home and I will smoke this with my partner and usually a friend or two or three or whatever. I don't have a whole lot of like friends that come over that I have like a lot of like I have friends, but it's like I don't have like a lot of close personal friends that are also cannabis smokers. Um, I should fix that. Um, but essentially, as we pass it around, I ask that everyone just essentially like taps this out into this little container that I usually have, which I then save until the 12th night, in which the ashes are then dumped along the entrance to my home to provide protection uh, and, in a sense of good luck for the home's occupants. That's what the tradition is for that. As we essentially cross, you could say, enter into the new year. Now, technically, the new year doesn't necessarily begin on January 1st. It is just kind of the significance of the end of that solstice period, the end of the Yuletide season. But it also marks essentially the coming rebirth of the sun god. And so the actual day, the New Year's that you could claim that we have, is what is usually symbolized with the uh, celebration of the spring, which is typically held on February 1st, which, depending on how you follow things, I typically use generic terms that are both Celtic and Nordic. So in the case of February 1st, Imbolc. Um, but uh, that is what I guess you could describe in simplest terms as a pagan New Year, or the rebirth, you could say, of the sun god, because obviously spring is representative of rebirth, fertility, the planting of seeds, you know, planting your crop, and you harvest that, later down the line. So, um, yeah. So essentially, what the winter solstice, essentially the burning of the Yule log, uh, happens on December 21st, or usually somewhere around it. This is to mark the beginning of the winter solstice, but this is not the beginning of winter itself. So traditionally, that begins with the conclusion of Samhain, which is on November 1st, um, and essentially that is the I guess you could say the waning of the sun, the dying of the sun god as he prepares to make his rebirth. Um, so that's basically the ending, the death, you could say, of one calendar cycle and the rebirth of another. Um, so um, think of it as, yeah, you could think of it as the opposite of Midsummer, in which in June, well, unless you're in the southern hemisphere, and then it's this time of the year, but in the northern hemisphere at least, in June is Midsummer. And so that we commemorate the summer solstice, typically June 21st or somewhere kind of around it. Usually it's somewhere between the 19th and the 24th, but usually I personally like to celebrate it on the 21st. But usually I think this year it was on like the 24th or something like that. It gets a little complicated. Um, that's not that's not when summer technically starts. That's actually Beltane, which is May 1st. So think of it in terms of this. The solstice is not the commemoration of the start of the season. Rather, it is meant to represent the peak of the season. I guess is how I could best describe it in the most simplest of terms. So during Yuletide, during this particular calendar cycle, this is meant to refer to the sun god. So in my case, that would be Sol, who dies and is reborn, and the winter solstice is meant to reflect that in the most basic of human terms. So that's at least the pagan aspects of it. I could go broader, but for sake of time, I'm just going to kind of keep this brief. There is a Christian tradition, which I don't think I need to remind people, has culturally and religiously appropriated pagan traditions, rehashing them as their own. But in Christian tradition, the log is placed underneath one's bed each night until the 12th night, or wassailing in England, in order to bring good luck and, again, protection. So you kind of see how that kind of correlates with the tradition that they culturally and religiously appropriated from pagan culture, specifically from Celtic and Germanic culture. In the same vein that, the whole thing with Santa Claus, who is really Odin, who brings all the little gifts and goodies for the good little girls and boys, that was Odin traveling on, I believe it was the third or the fourth night of Yuletide, and would go to each of the villages, and he would give gifts to the little girls and boys. The only difference is that the bad little boys and girls would, for lack of a better term, get to meet Krampus instead of getting coal. But yeah, it was just kind of one of the it was kind of one of those things to, I guess, motivate children to be good throughout the year. So yeah, and then they'd be rewarded with gifts. So that wasn't, that's just another example of that. But I digress. As stated above, a Yule log, isn't just the burning of a log. In fact, there's also a very tasty dessert of the same name that is often eaten while burning an actual, like, Yule log or Yule tree, whatever. And the drinking of hot chocolate and cider or eggnog is usually done, about this time. Or mead. Lots of mead, lots of alcohol, lots of feasting, lots of fires. That's basically, that's pretty much every pagan tradition, but especially this time of the year. And this dessert is typically a type of, like, looks kind of like a Swiss roll, basically, made of sponge cake, and usually it's like covered in chocolate, and it's got, like, either it's like all chocolate, or it's got like some sort of like buttercream or icing or something like that within it. Basically, think of it like those little Hostess ho-hos you get at the store, but the size of but it's like the size of a freaking casserole dish, and instead of a creamy filling, it's, again, either all chocolate or has like buttercream in the middle. It's absolutely delicious, and if you ever get a chance to try it, or even if you have tried it, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't tried it, you should. It's delicious. I highly recommend. Yes. Yeah. Basically, those are some of the traditions. That's basically what a Yule log is, what it's meant to represent, and kind of, what I, kind of some of the things that even I let you in that I practice. For instance, in a couple of days, as of this recording at least, on Christmas Eve, as like I said, is about, we consider it like the third or fourth night, is when I set aside like bread or apples or something like that, or something for like, Odin's, like horses or his wolves, or, something that he could snack on, as well as like a glass of mead for him, which is where the whole glass of milk thing for Santa comes around and the cookies for him. Bread and mead, or mutton and mead, or something that he can take with him on his journey. So it's basically an offering that you leave outside your door for, as an offering to Odin. And that will be something I will be doing that night. So yeah, Merry Yuletide to all, and to all a good night. And I'm Red Pagan Nicole, and thank you for watching.
That random pro-DPRK guy, known as I Stan Kim Jong-un but can't stand Trump, has changed his name to Captain DPRK. It was originally intended to start a GoFundMe for Captain DPRK to get to the DPRK. But between the drama of B-Level and Connor Gillis, along with the betrayals of both Red Scare TV and Fellow Traveler, we all forgot about this. I'm sorry to Captain DPRK.
Christmas. I have mixed feelings about this holiday, I'm not going to lie. Even though I do know it's a Christian holiday, it's hard for me not to have mixed feelings about it. Especially the modern iteration of it. What Christmas is and what it isn't. Santa Claus, to me, represents everything I hate about capitalism, because that's what this time of the year reminds me of. Santa Claus represents consumerism and greed. He isn't this happy, jolly guy, old guy that's I see something different, something ugly. And he's not even an original idea to begin with. It's stolen from multiple sources. St. Nicholas, unlike Santa Claus, actually existed. And everything that St. Nicholas did is what supposedly Santa did. And the reindeer and all that other shit, that was taken from Odin. Now, I'm not the most educated on this, but let's just say Christmas, as we know it, is a bastardization that has basically taken things from multiple different religions and called it its own, just like everything else that the capitalist system tends to do. Unless you're Christian, you shouldn't be saying Merry Christmas. In fact, I don't even think you should, even if you are Christian. Here's why. Christmas is a Christian holiday, correct? But there's also another holiday at this time of the year, Hanukkah. To say Merry Christmas to people that are not Christians is disrespectful and excluding those of other religions. Because Christmas is not the only religious holiday that exists, even though today it's anything but religious, because capitalism does what it does to everything. It corrupts and turns it to the exact opposite. The war on Christmas, I do think, is based, but not the religious aspect of Christmas. I'm talking about what it has warped into. the ugly abomination that it's warped into. Just think about it. Anyone that's within my generation could contest to this. When I was a kid, I was poor. I still am. But the only time of the year I really got anything, thanks to my grandmother, like let's say any new games or whatnot or toys, was at Christmas or my birthday, or occasionally when my mom and dad had some extra money. But that's it. Only my birthday and Christmas did I ever get anything. So the stuff I wanted the most in that year, Christmas was that time that I was eagerly looking forward to because of that reason. But when my grandmother died in 2002, that year I felt empty. Even though I got almost everything I wanted that year, it wasn't the same. I loved Christmas now, since I have hindsight, is because I wanted to be around my grandmother. I was very close to her, and I didn't see Christmas like I see it now. Even when I was a teenager, I didn't see Christmas as this consumerist holiday that I see it today. But after my grandmother passed away, it wasn't the same. Every Christmas since, I see Christmas for what it is, not what I thought it was. I think we need to return Christmas to its roots. But of course, that requires overthrowing capitalism. But until we get to that point where we can overthrow capitalism, we need to combat the corporatization of Christmas. And I think Christians, whether they're agnostic or atheists, and pagans together, regardless of their disagreements, should combat the corporatization of Christmas. Because what we see now, it's nothing like what the holidays is supposed to be about. There's nothing spiritual about what Christmas is currently. There's nothing spiritual of just giving little Timmy a bunch of shit that they're not even going to use after the first day they get it, assuming they even use it at all. Yeah, this is coming from a perspective of a poor kid who grew up poor, and everything that I got, I appreciated. I valued more than other people. That's why I'm very protective of my things. It all stems from childhood, because I rarely got anything. And when I did, excuse me, I'm outside. When I was a child, Christmas and my birthday were the only days I actually got something, because my parents saved up, or my grandmother. And to this day, I'm still defensive of my shit because of that reason. I guess you could call it trauma from poverty. I may have a lot of shit now, but I didn't back then. The takeaway is corporatism needs to be combated everywhere. And I don't feel like any holiday has been affected nearly as much with corporatism as Christmas. You don't see a mass commercial campaign for Hanukkah because, let's be honest with ourselves, the West is deeply anti-Semitic, especially America, and it wouldn't be profitable to promote a holiday like Hanukkah or the other holidays that exist. Like Merry Christmas is being exclusionary to those of other religions, because Christianity is not the only religion. Oh, shocker for those who don't know anything outside their bubble. Of course, there's those out there who may not even be aware of Hanukkah, which I highly doubt that, but I would be surprised because in America especially, Americans are so uncultured that they don't know anything beyond what's in their country. There's more holidays than the ones you're familiar with. And not everyone celebrates Christmas in the same way as we do in the West. In countries like Syria, like, unfortunately, what used to be Palestine, it barely exists now because of Israel's genocidal campaign, Christmas has a different meaning. People in this country may say that Christmas is all about the family, which it's true, and Christianity and the birth of Jesus, yet where is that? Where is that exactly? Because I don't see a celebration of Jesus. I don't see a celebration of the birth of the Savior, the prophet, which, by the way, most Americans would reject completely, but that's beyond the scope of this clip. Jesus is everything that America is against, yet this time of the year is supposed to be the birth of Jesus. Yet, what is actually celebrated? And I'm talking about from the American context. Owning things, hoarding things, material goods. That is what's promoted. That is what is encouraged. And those who are poor, when they look at people who have more money than them, they feel like, shit, I know I did. Seeing people have something that I don't have, because it makes you feel even worse being poor. And maybe I'm just speaking from my own experience, but that's what the corporatization of Christmas has done psychologically to me. When I was a child, when I see other kids having a lot more stuff than me, that did something to me as a kid. I felt lesser than. I see this as another way of reinforcing class dynamics to instill that those of less fortunate backgrounds economically, that your place is here. And I do see Christmas has become a way to reinforce caste and class. Those who are in the lowest sections of society who cannot advance are reminded on this day, on this holiday, that they're stuck. There's no hope to get out. It's hopeless. Let's make Christmas what it actually is, a holiday of love and hope. What it actually is. Not this corporatized bullshit, not this commercialism, and certainly not this symbol of corporate greed, consumerism, capitalism. Fuck Santa Claus. I think we need to send him to the wall. We should put a bullet through his skull and make an example of him. Down with Santa Claus. Long live St. Nicholas.
Hello, Comrade Nat.
Hello, Corbin.
So today we are addressing the accusations that Comrade Brony, otherwise known as Jeffrey, made against you. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Alright. First question. Do you believe that you are Ares, an obscure, fabled version of the Grim Reaper?
Me personally, no. I believe, which has nothing to do with politics and was nobody's business to begin with, I believe that I have been in several covens where I was allowed to play the role of Ares because I really like his character. I do believe that that cosmic being exists, but see, I'm a human being. And most cultures don't even believe in this RS. It's a dying fable.
So you're saying that you, like many other people, have taken the name of a fictional character and used it. A very common thing to do.
Yeah, it just so happens that when I was in a bad place, and I was living in other places, this woman tried to convince me that I was the fictional character, and it was ironic that it was actually Brony who reinforced it, and his mom that pulled me out of it.
So how did this spread?
Because Brony never listened. Brony was just somebody I didn't know how to deal with, and I felt like shit for it, because he has a human side, to be fair. Mm-hmm. He should be very, I met him in a forum, and he was basically tearing down families like ours. And then when he ended up friending me, I forgot it was him. And then I had to deal with that. And then every time I got the courage to tell him, I sort of told him in a roundabout way. But the worst part is he would reinforce delusions. And, I was never delusional. I've had delusional periods where I'm super homeless to the point, where shit gets wrong. And he was the reinforcer, and his mom was always the one that brought me back to reality. So never in my right mind do I think that I'm RS, and I never actually thought that. Certain people tried to make me think I was, simply because I do believe that I've housed him before in a forbidden ritual. That was nobody's business, though.
Interesting. So then, do you believe that Mother is Saphira?
I believe she's done the same thing. I believe she's housed Saphira because I believe she loves those stories.
So
that's one of the reasons how we came together. She didn't know where those stories came from.
So would you say that this is a love of characters blown out of proportion?
Yeah, no, metaphorically, me and your mother do emulate these beings, and I want to educate everybody on these beings and build channels, like I said, but I don't want it on political terms. I want it on an esoteric religious channel. It's up to you whether they believe this shit or not. This had nothing to do, okay, ultimately, there is no God. God is a metaphor for the truth that is aware of itself, that you experience. And there's so many different ways, and the way to approach the question of God is through not an agnostic way, but an ignostic way. What does it mean to you? So, whatever, yeah. Yeah, next question.
Do you believe that you, as Ares, and Mom, as Saphira, fight the demons as Modius, Lilith, and Ashtar?
Well, yes. In a magic ritual years ago, and that was no one's business.
And does that have anything to do with politics?
No.
And should it have anything to do with politics?
No, this is like taking somebody's sacred, a husband and wife behind closed doors, none of our children are watching, and now the whole world just saw nudity that we did not consent to.
Yeah. So it's being brought up for slanderous reasons, despite having nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
Do you believe that someone's spiritual belief should be judged on their political beliefs, and do you believe that someone's political beliefs should be judged on their spiritual beliefs?
Yes and no. Yes and no. That's complicated. That is too simplistic, because politics, okay, it is being said that everything is political. That's a lie. Nothing's political. Everything's cultural. What it is politics encompasses everything, and if you can't say it that way, you're lying. And that's the issue right there, is maybe I do want to do a magical ritual to stop global warming. I have every right to believe that that's working, but that has nothing, but I'm not going to bring that up in politics, because that is my personal empiricism that I can't prove to you. You see what I mean? It has nothing to do with my calls of judgment and any political shit that I've done. And to say otherwise is nothing but sheer white bigotry.
So it's once again that demonization of non-popular religious beliefs.
Yeah. And the worst part is, I'll be real, this is very taboo even with Judaism, and there is a Jewish argument for the kind of stuff I do, but it depends on what spectrum of the Orthodox world we're talking about. And I'm not gonna lie, the stuff that I reconstruct stuff that's been old Sephardic stuff that's almost gone. I have a way of doing that, and so but that's personal, and for me to explain to people publicly if and when I ever want to, and for Jeffrey to put all that stuff out and make it as if this is a delusion that I have. And then a shared delusion with not just his mom, who thinks very differently than all of us, but his grandma, who I don't know a damn thing about what his grandma believes. You know, he's an anti-Semite. What can I say? He's especially anti-Semitic because his mom believes herself to be Jewish, and in my opinion, she does have a Jewish soul and has a right to a form of conversion.
Comrade Net should not have to defend himself concerning the very personal, sacred, fraternal rituals he and his wife did years ago. What is done behind closed doors, the very things they don't let your kids see, should never be for the public eye. So why does Dr. Weisfeld endorse such slander? I don't know. Stone Sobey continues to placate Dr. Weisfeld's ego, manipulating him. Mark A. Foster was bullied by Abraham Weisfeld. But for some reason, Dr. Weisfeld's slander aimed at Comrade Net. Dr. Weisfeld started to become tyrannical and has started to begin to offend Ahmed. Ahmed is a Palestinian Canadian with international ties. He's an expert on Syria. If there's one place in the world Dr. Weisfeld has flaunted his ignorance, it's Syria. In late 2015, Comrade Net was kicked out of his wife's house. The real details are not for anyone to know. The only real thing you need to know that is Comrade Net's work is something he hides from his in-laws. His wife, his agender son have to do this from their in-laws. Mark A. Foster considers Net, his wife, his son, his daughter to be a family in need of independence. It is true that most communists think that the Jewish family fighting actively and willfully against white Christian assimilation is fighting a trivial struggle. Third world communists understand this problem. It is understandable why so many fall under the spell of escapists. True communists should help all Bundists struggle.
So why do you think Comrade Brony is lying about you and spreading rumors?
Because I think that he knows that he was not paying attention to anything I was saying. I think he knows that he indulged in, stuff that Lady Rosara said. You remember Lady Rosara up at that one house, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that situation. And she was the one that was trying to convince me that I was the real RS. I think that he doesn't want people to know his role in that, and that at the same time he was just a follower. And I wasn't really dealing with him. He never registered. Like, when I realized who he was, I kind of panicked because, like I said, I know his human side to him. There is an empathetic side to him and that I cared about.
What is
but then he would change his political views and his religious views all the time, and then he'd try to say the best revolutionary thing I can do is join the army, and like he'd do stuff like that.
Clarify, when you say what he is.
He says that he's not trying to figure himself out like his mom says. And he criticizes his mom because his mom didn't raise him in any particular religion, and that's true. And I criticized his mom for that. She accepted that criticism. But rather than realize that that was a mistake because parents make mistakes, he denounces his mother over the fact that she actually brought me back to reality, while he was the one that was indulging in fantasies. He's trying to say that she's delusional, that his grandmother's delusional. I don't know anything about his grandmother except the contradictory stuff that he and his mom said. So I don't even know that woman. And he's going after me because of the fact is that everybody knows that Jeffrey, or Brony, is the guy that disowned his sister 3 times. The first time because his sister reported a pedophile.
So, I'm sorry, I haven't been involved in any of this.
I know you haven't. And you never liked Jeff because you thought I talked to him too much.
You're saying that this guy is out here denouncing his family members left and right. All the women in his family are just evil.
Yeah. And he accused he had me convinced his brother had hit his girlfriend. Turns out that's not true, according to several eyewitnesses, not just his brother, but his sister and his mom, and several friends of the family, because Brony's mom takes care of people.
Huh.
Yeah.
So just to recap, Comrade Net was kicked out of his in-laws' house by his wife because of the work he does. It's well anti-American. Whenever Net finds himself homeless, he has to find shelter. This can make his insomnia worse. This insomnia can make him momentarily delusional. Sleep deprivation can make you delusional. It just so happened that while a white and New Age woman who we'll call Lady Rosara went out of her way to convince Net that he is the real Arez. Net recovered from this years ago. With the help of Jeffrey's mom, Comrade Net regained his wits. Jeff, aka Brony, was the one reinforcing everything Rosara said. By the way, I reserve the right to use nicknames to protect the identities of all those involved in this. None of this was anyone's business. The big victim in all this was Corvid AB. The one who has the least amount of right to complain is Dr. Weisfeld. We have cared about his struggles. He has never cared for our struggles, though. He thinks everything is about him.
I'm sure there's some confusion, but in case I haven't explained it already, since people need to know for whatever reason, as far as my son is concerned, yes, my son is asexual. That means that my son is not attracted to either sex, but they are not aromantic. Now, if you want to get into the whole romantic thing versus sexual attraction, I don't want to get into shit like that. Point being, yes, my son is in fact asexual, but also agender, with more masculine leanings. Like, you know, like if it's sir or ma'am, my son would prefer to be called sir. Refers to themselves as my son. Pronouns are they, them, but also he, him. More alternatively, he, him. The primary pronouns used are they, them. As far as what was just now said, what I said, I'd like to clarify this. The Falcon General and Luke Dublin, the Inglesist, neither one of them are seeking beef with the Stone Soviet. It's just certain things came to light, and I might have felt need to mention it. I will publicly self-criticize in detail for Luke Dublin when I'm ready, which will be sooner than later. But like I promised I will do this, and I will do this. In spite of my frustrations with Dr. Weisfeld, I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I want, in fact, him to be covered, for full press coverage to happen when he goes back to Nablus. And if it's true that the Stone Soviet is coming with Dr. Weisfeld to Nablus, let me just tell you right now, you better do what you're told, because in these situations, you do what you're told. No one's going to be interested in your 2 cents on every subject on that. That being said, I'd like to thank her for not dragging the Falcon General into this stuff. My son came up here because they felt they had no choice. For the very same reason I do anything, because I feel like I have no choice. I will keep my promises and make more Bundes Movement videos through other means, but it will not be through the Bundes Movement channel. That officially belongs to Dr. Weisfeld as of now. I do denounce Yehuda Shlomo as of now. He made a very decent argument on why me and Jason Unruhe had to steal the channel for him. But despite this, I also can give just as much size to why Dr. Weisfeld would say that, you know, this was kind of a stab in the back. I guess you could say it kind of was. I did this for 2 reasons. I didn't do this on the terms that Yehuda wanted. I did this for 2 reasons. Number one, it creates a permanent rift between me and Dr. Weisfeld, which is healthy for us both. Because for us both to continue in any form of activism, we just should never speak to each other ever again. He's never going to publish the manual part 1, part 2. I mean, this is this, and for everybody who yells at me about it, I'm not going to lift a finger for this. I've wasted 4 years of energy basically on this. I was coerced into helping produce old stuff. I had to find every single PDF. I couldn't even do it at the end. Somebody else, intervened and helped at the end. I had to go through all this crap. And I know that from Dr. Weisfeld's point of view, he feels like he wasted years. But he was the one that forced this situation out. So therefore, any begrudging anger he has to me is really just bullshit. Everybody took care of Dr. Weisfeld. The rest of us, we were neglected. That's the truth of the whole situation. I don't blame him. I mean, I did kind of tell everybody he's the bee's knees and we should basically follow suit to him. I regret doing that. I never met him to feel set up. I definitely feel set up. He will never take accountability for any wrongdoing. He's not capable. Don't ask him. It's more important that he gets back to Palestine and that any injury done to him is covered. Because the simple truth is, the Jewish diaspora nation is the actual target
of the United States, because it's already known we never supported Israel. And now that our own people are waking up, we are the target. Because our loyalty is to diaspora Judea, not to fake Jewish country. I've ranted a bit here. A lot of things are regrettable. I'm sorry to every constituent I let down. I will do my best to keep my promises. That manual is never going to, ever going to be published. I understand that people don't have the luxury of going into libraries and looking through it, as the big difference between the first world and the third world is the first world has all that surveillance. And I know I'm upsetting people, but there's not much more I can say about that. Long live the Jewish Bund. And long live Palestine.
Alright, so just in case people are lost, I'm going to recap, and then I'm going to speak directly to my son. So, it's known my son is a anarcho-Bundist. It's known that the reason why my son is Jewish is because my son's mother, also the same person as my wife, has gone through an Orthodox conversion of sorts, a type of Orthodox conversion, and there's different kinds of Orthodox Judaism, but so you have to understand, first and foremost, my son's understanding of what's Jewish is primarily a religious thing. However, because of my upbringing with my son, which was more or less political, my son understands Judaism to be a religion about a narration around a diaspora nation. Which I agree with that. I think that that is the most progressive, forward way to look at it. Because we become Jewish through the Torah. And the Bund cannot make you Jewish. The only thing the Bund can do is identify Jewishness. To identify whether somebody's Jewish or not is a question around the Torah. So anyway, my son was not open as queer. That came out. A lot of things occurred. A lot of promises were broken. And I have to take responsibility and say that we handled the Gen Z people in general wrong. This is something me and Jason Unruhe are looking back in retrospect of. We should have made sure that all the power would have went to Gen Z. So my son is going to talk about how both me and my son felt pressured into this political system of discourse that we don't want to be in. So where do we begin?
Alright, first I'd like to clarify, just so that everybody knows, and it's, everyone's aware. Agender, any pronouns, I do not particularly care. I prefer he and they, simply because of how I've been treated. Now that that's out of the way, ask your questions.
Oh, okay. Alright. Okay. So, well, you are an anarcho-Bundist. Corporal Cat is now just the name of an anarcho-comic book thing that we have not settled, like how many characters and stories are in it. Where do you stand with media? Because you hate the media more than me, it seems. Or engagement with it, at least.
I hate engaging in the media under somebody else's terms. It's difficult for me. One, because I have this problem where I agree to things before I've fully accepted them, because I feel pressured or rushed or whatever. There's a certain obligation that I feel to a lot of people just out of seeing someone struggle and understanding that, and understanding that they need help, where I will force myself into obligations. So it's very dangerous for me to interact with the media, simply because I tend to get wrapped up in things too easily.
Thank you. I feel similar, and I apologize to you because it's been made. In retrospect, like for instance, Red Pagan Nicole said that really I'm not a patsy or a puppet master. I'm a whipping boy. I'm set up to take the blame, and I let it happen. And you've said that too. You told me I'm a whipping boy, and you're angry because I was raising you to be a whipping boy, and I want to publicly apologize for this.
Yeah.
So, what is AB to us? Because both you and your sister call AB Zadie, but he's not really my dad at all. He's not. If anything, he's more like a political grandfather. But he's always been more of a comrade and a brother, who me and him are just grown apart from. I guess that's like we were
growing up. growing up, he was like a grandfather to me.
Yeah.
I didn't really know my grandfather on your side
Right.
very well at all.
Mhm.
He died, of course.
Yeah.
But I did know AB, and I kind of miss him, even though I don't think I can talk to him anytime soon, simply because I don't think that would go well. I still love him, but I don't want to talk right now.
Mhm.
I don't like how he's been acting. It's affecting people in ways that, I don't think anyone could have predicted. It's really tearing things apart on levels that I didn't imagine. A lot of broken promises, a lot of the same old shit, basically.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit disheartening. I don't really want to see him right now, or talk about him or to him, if I'm being honest.
Mhm. And we don't want him to be discredited politically.
No, obviously not.
Obviously not. We still understand him as the chairman of the revolution, don't we? But we do not believe that he is the chairman of the entire convergence at this point. No. In fact, would you say that he has made it so terrifying for us to even be in a convergence movement? Not just...
Well, I wouldn't say it's just him. I don't know if I could say burned, necessarily, because, I wasn't in it for long, but I don't feel like it was made right for me, and I don't feel like it was a good situation.
Mhm.
And although I do not regret being involved,
Mhm.
I regret how I was involved.
I appreciate that. There was no communication through this whole thing, in my opinion.
No.
That was largely when we all look back at it. I'll let you in on something. Even both Luke and Falcone look at the problem as stoned. Now, no one should force them to say that. No one has, and I don't speak for them. What we've noticed is that they, after Darkstovia made a criticism, they both agreed that the criticism Darkstovia made had legitimacy, and they did not completely agree with them.
Stoned hurt because I had good dialogue with Stoned, but
Me too, same. She used to be very engaging back in the day. When she wasn't trying to, cancel out what everybody else said.
She was too controlling.
Yes.
And that was a consistent issue, and she got away with it too often. And nobody tended to notice because we had bigger issues, bigger fish to fry, and then there was Connor Gillis and stuff, which really, I think, fucked things up a bit. And I think that's, how Stone got away with so much after Connor Gillis.
Because she was right about Stone. Stone, to be fair, was spot on about Connor before anybody was.
Right.
Precisely on every level.
Right, and that's why I think so much decision-making was given to her that shouldn't have been.
Well, it's not just that. She was right about both The Fellow Traveler and Red Scare TV at every level. In fact, that's kind of where you and Stone and Luke and Falcone had the strongest bond.
Would it be wrong to say takes one to know one?
Yeah, and no. In fact, this is Jason's line now, is that the reason why Stone was able to identify her true enemies is because she was one of them, in retrospect. But this is all in retrospect. We're baffled. How did I get blamed for a decision Darkstovia made to do? Darkstovia has his own thoughts. I don't control him, Nicole doesn't control him, and Jason doesn't control him. But Stoned and Gangaros and a lot of those people, they try to make it out to be so. Not true. We work in tandem with each other. Look, if you want to know the truth, in fact, this is what would make us probably the most united with both Luke and Falcone. Me, you, Jason, Nicole, Jordan McCulkin, aka Darkstovia, all share with Jason under this notion that we do know that the highest level of imperialism is neo-colonialism. AB is not paying attention to that. And Stone knows this is true as well, because she's into Gramsci and Frantz Fanon. And I'm going to be real, if you are into those two, you know that what we're saying is true. And, AB is not... doing anything but playing into neo-colonialism with the way he's dealing with the Syria thing. Nobody is for Assad. It's just that the overthrow of Assad is helping the West. You know, there's a difference. There's differences in places of the world that he doesn't see, and he's being rebuked by Palestinians that he knows now. And it's like, well, how do we? You know what I mean? That reflects on us as Bundists. We are Bundists too. And AB forgets we are also Bundists, and he does not speak for all Bundists. And neither you or me tried to speak for all Bundists, but he's always tried to gaslight either you, me, or some other Bundist as speaking for all the Bundists.
I don't try to speak for anybody but myself. I was just trying to, you know, come in, clear some things up, maybe do a couple of things of my own. And that was all shot down and undermined for the sake of me holding up stuff that was falling apart. Like MRN Youth, that it was being pushed out of MRN and made into like Kara's own thing. And I was given that. And I don't know what I was supposed to do with it. In retrospect, I don't know either. Remember, it was crashing, burning. I didn't have a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, you even had the title ship that Donna made because all Buddhist stuff was appropriated by you, me, and AB. Like, I don't even, and that's the thing. AB never remembered anything because he was either on morphine, which he publicly said that. So I'm not ousting a secret here, you know, or because he was having, you know, issues with whatever, you know, and he would forget what he would say to other people, and it's like we all had to be concerned when he was in legal trouble, but when he's putting us in legal trouble, it doesn't matter, and that's what was noticed. And he does it, and he blames. Stone knows this. This is the issue that Falcone has. This is the issue like Luke has. This issue, you know, Glover has. We all notice that AB is not considerate. He doesn't mind his surroundings to us. He doesn't understand our physical realities as they are, and so you remember after the massacre, the big thing was we had to hide this from my in-laws, from you know, your grandma and everybody,
right?
Yeah, and this made it harder to resist Christmas, because as Jews, Christmas would be like Hellenizing, and if there's going to be Christmas, we should acknowledge Palestine, you know. And all this is because we couldn't leave. And I think this is another thing where we can clarify. It's not just about Montreal. What was it really about?
It was more about leaving. It was about, you know, having a place to have a family where it's not all like Christian-centric and, you know, super white American.
Yeah.
Which is just, we're not really part of that culture, and it being forced on us is taxing as all hell.
Yeah, and we would like our names to stop being constantly referenced by people. I think you and I both feel this way.
Yeah. My name is referenced a shocking amount for being in as short as I was and doing as little as I did.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, your defenses of Stone at the time were correct. Like, Stone was having accusations that weren't true. Like, I can't stand Stone. I will never speak to Stone again, because Stone is the ultimate narcissist that I've known. But to be fair to the truth of the situation, the accusations put on by Connor were not only baseless. We all knew they were baseless because Liz was trying to say things that we all witnessed to the contrary of what she claimed. Stone was not doing like hard drugs in front of the Falcone General and shit like that. You know, because and those very conversations that she was in, that we were all in, that never happened. You know, like we all are eyewitness to the contrary. So that's the funny thing, is like it's like you did actually clear facts out of the way, but everybody still wants me to talk about B-level, but people forget I never wanted to talk about B-level. It's just I have to talk about B-level because I promised I would.
Side tangent? Okay, I've been told that you said that Stone says she's having periods, right?
That's what both Nicole and Mark Foster have told me. And by the way, Mark Foster doesn't lie about his experience. Sometimes he misunderstands experiences, but he does not lie. I want to make that clear.
I'm just going to say this really quickly. When you're on hormones, your hormonal cycles will change. Men work on a 24-hour system, women work on a 28-day system. Trans women on estrogen and progesterone or whatever, they will operate on a 28-day cycle. That does not involve bleeding. if that is actually happening, that is a medical issue that should be brought up with a doctor. So, hormones, totally legit. I understand that. You will have the hormonal cycles of a woman. You will not bleed unless there is something medically wrong. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. My biggest worry is, I think in the political terms, is to secure certain unknown tendencies to be allowed to be referenced correctly and not by other people who don't know anything about them. Like, for instance, the Demarchists thing. Like, the goal of Demarchists is not to make more Demarchists. It's like in the same way where Marxism is like the dialectical theory of the communists, Demarchism is the current dialectical theory of the socialists, and it's so self-aware it actually encourages different tendencies to adopt this and improve it, change it, or correct anything that you could misappropriate. Because there's three things that anarchists and communists alike don't respect typically, and that's tribe, religion, and family. And that hatred of those things is colonial. Now, I understand you as an anarchist don't have a problem, but you're an anarcho-Buddhist. And that was very controversial, and I think I don't want people hating on that. So my last question to you, if I have a question, and you can ask me anything after that so we can wrap this up. As an anarcho-Buddhist, how do you feel about the situation of discourse with other tendencies these days?
I think that we need to realize that online spaces, leftists tend to be turned against each other very quickly because there's a lot of performative leftism, and those people who are performatively leftist are actually just people who like drama. They are those types of people that will be involved in all of the drama with whatever popular thing is going on, like, I don't know, K-pop or something. But those are the same types of people. They're not leftists, they're drama whores. And that's a consistent problem. Really, leftists should understand that working together is a fundamental, integral part of, the community, debates, discussions, discourse. It should not be turned into hate. And as soon as it is, it's performative leftism.
I like that. That's good. I just remembered, and I think I said that it was our last, but since this is the MRN holiday special, let's bring the holidays into this. What are your views of Hanukkah? What are your views of Christmas? Let's tell AB how we're handling Christmas. Question: do you prefer to celebrate Christmas or not?
I do not prefer to celebrate Christmas. I enjoy participating and giving my friends and family gifts, but that is an act of more so. I made my girlfriend a gift this year, right?
Right.
I made her something. It's not supposed to be an act of, I got you the most expensive thing, you should love me. I got you something super sentimental, you should make me feel good about myself. I got you an expensive gift, this is me flexing my wealth and giving you something nice. All of that is bullshit. The holidays should be, I agree with a lot of people. The holidays should be about community, about family, about friends. The fact that it isn't is kind of ridiculous, and it really takes the actual joy out of the holiday and turns it into just more retail therapy. I think that Christmas is an overblown thing that's made to sell more products by the Coca-Cola company. It's an appropriation of Yule and an appropriation of Christians somehow that they've just accepted because Christians in America have become corporate.
Wait, so you don't hate Christian Christmas necessarily?
No.
Right.
I can respect that a holiday can be derived from another holiday. I respect Yule, I respect Kwanzaa, I respect Hanukkah, I respect original Christmas. Not Santa, not consumerism, not all the burnt out, broken light bulbs and pieces of plastic floating about from all the wrapping paper.
So do you agree with dark Snovia that Santa Claus, is plagiarizing Saint Nicholas? And do you agree with Nicole that Santa Claus is also plagiarizing Odin?
I believe that Christmas is a disrespect to both Christians and pagans.
Right, but by Christmas we mean the Christmas and the corporate concept, or
Yes, Christmas that is widely celebrated in America.
Now, should there be no Christmas without Palestine being in the conversation?
I mean, I think so.
I think so too. So what are we doing for Christmas? We don't care to celebrate it, but we're not going to cause issues with my grandmother. With your grandmother, aka my mother.
We are once again tolerating it, and I mean, I'll be wearing my keffiyeh.
I'll be wearing my keffiyeh as well. And that we do want to thank AB for the keffiyehs, yes? Mm-hmm. Because that's our way of dealing with Christmas. Is if people are going to have Christmas, we demand it be Merry Christmas Palestine, don't we? Mm-hmm. That's right. But we are for Hanukkah, because we're Jewish. We don't really care about Christmas. Christmas is like the very thing Hanukkah is in opposition towards, Hellenizations. It's happy holidays. Mm. Do you think that the standard should be happy holidays in a cosmopolitan setting?
Yeah.
Yeah? Same here. Same here. So we don't want Kwanzaa canceled out, or you'll cancel that either.
I think I want to end it here to...
Yeah, we'll end it here. Do we have anything else we need to say before we go?
Yeah. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Yule, Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Enjoy it all.
All right.
I'm going to end with saying Merry Christmas, Palestine. There is no acknowledging Christmas without acknowledging Palestine. So Merry Christmas, Palestine.
Christ is still in the room. Dear friends, near and far. Has been 440 days. 440 days of constant bombing, non-stop. 440 days of starvation. Tens of thousands killed, injured, forever displaced, imprisoned, starved. More than 17,000 children killed. And it feels like we have watched them being killed one by one. 440 days of the people of Israel sharing live images of their own executions, even burned alive. And we cannot stop it. Trump said if the hostages are not released in January, there will be hell to pay. It is already hell. What is he talking about? And it has been held for 16 years before October 7th. And of course, no one's talking about the Palestinian hostages. It is indeed hard to believe that another Christmas has come upon us and the genocide has not stopped. In fact, it has expanded. We are out of words. We feel powerless to stop it. Decision makers are content to let this continue. To them, Palestinians are dispensable. And they know it, by the way. They are watching. It is not as if the horrors of this genocide will be discovered after all is said and done. No, it is well documented. We are all watching it. In fact, even those committing it, the ruthless soldiers and their masters, are sharing images of their latent crimes against humanity and posting about it. They are taking pleasure in our erasure and our annihilation. In fact, some news reported about soldiers competing to arbitrarily kill the most civilians. And that's not just soldiers following orders. It has become some sort of recreational activity. You know that you can actually go on top of hills and watch our execution of them. They have created a tourist spot for this. Or a boat tour for the whole family. Imagine. Casual afternoon spent watching the hot stove on us. and they celebrate. It has become entertainment. See, they don't see us as humans. Because in the logic of settler colonialism, despite knowing there were always people here in Palestine, the land was empty of who they deemed human. But it has also been 440 days of resilience and even beauty. Yes. I think of our heroes in Gaza, the doctors, the medics, the nurses, the first responders, the volunteers, those who sacrifice and give everything for their fellow human beings. I also think of those who created schools and tents, the ones who play music to the displaced children, to bring a smile in the midst of pain and destruction. Even the chefs who are cooking meals in us. And the smallest of children tending to their siblings. Yes, the loss is enormous, but we have not lost our faith and our collective humanity. This is the beauty that I'm talking about. And especially in this day, remember our steadfast churches in Gaza, which despite the brutality of the siege, despite the loss, they have embraced, supported, and suffered for their sons and daughters. And in the midst of the genocide, they continue to pray, and they continue to serve. Today we ask, really, what happened to humanity? I really feel for our collective humanity when a genocide of such scale is normalized and even celebrated. I feel for our souls because we have gotten used to the images of children lifeless, pulled from under the rubble. We have gotten used to the images of plastics and cloth tents bombed and people starved. Have we ourselves become numb? How do we watch this? So we must fight within us because we cannot be content for this to be normalized. We have to fight against this growing apathy. We must not rest. We must not rest or grow weary. To do so is to abandon not only the people of Gaza, but our own humanity. This is why we must continue talking about Gaza, and not just Gaza, but all places of systematic oppression and killing until it stops. Last year I said silence is complicity. We are way past this now. Numbness is a betrayal to humanity, yours and to those in Gaza. And equally, we must insist that all who committed war crimes must be held accountable. We cannot normalize impunity. What kind of a world and future we are leaving our children if we accept a reality where war criminals go unpunished, even actually emboldened, where they openly boast of their crimes, and rather than met with justice, they are met with applauses in the halls of Congress and defended by European parliaments. This is what's happening today. And they still dare to lecture us on human rights and international law. They tell us never again. Never again to us is only a slogan. It's actually empty words, honestly. Because never again should mean never again to all peoples. Never again has become yet again. Yet again to supremacy. Yet again to racism. And yet again to genocide. And sadly, never again has become yet again for the weaponization of the Bible and the silence and complicity of the Western Church. Yet again for the church siding with power, the church siding with the empire. And so today, after all this of total destruction and annihilation, and Gaza is erased, unfortunately, millions have become refugees and homeless, tens of thousands killed. And why is anyone still debating whether this is a genocide or not? I can't believe it. Yet even when church leaders simply call for investigating whether this is a genocide, he is called out, and it becomes breaking news. Friends, the evidence is clear. Truth stands plain for all to see. The question is not whether this is a genocide. This is not the debate. The real question is, why isn't the world and the church calling it a genocide? It says a lot when you deny and ignore and refrain from using the language of genocide. This says a lot. It actually reveals hypocrisy. For you lectured us for years on international laws and human rights. It reveals your hypocrisy. It says a lot on how you look at us Palestinians. It says a lot about your moral and ethical standards. It says everything about who you are when you turn away from the truth, when you refuse to name oppression for what it is. Or could it be that they're not calling it a genocide? Could it be that if reality was acknowledged for what it is, that it is a genocide, then that it would be an acknowledgement of your guilt? For this war was a war that was so many defended as just and self-defense. And now you can't even bring yourself to apologize. The genocide will end one day, and soon, we hope and plead. But history will remember where people stood. History will remember what they said. They cannot climb, they did not know. And this is why we insist that this is more than Gaza or Palestine. It's much more than that. In Palestine, we find the intersection of colonialism, supremacy, the logic of might is right, militarism, racism, and religious fundamentalism. All of these come together in Palestine. Palestine is a human and moral cause. And for the church, as one of my friends said, it is a theological crisis. It is about the credibility of our witness. It is here that we come face to face with the tragic consequences of bad theology. Actually, this is much more than bad theology or even ideology. Zionism and Christian Zionism are ideologies of supremacy. It is racism. Zionism and Christian Zionism turned God into a racist, tribal deity of their own image. So we must call things for what they are. And today also, we acknowledge all those who stood on the side of justice and truth. All those who said no to dehumanization, many of whom actually paid a heavy price. We salute you. See, solidarity by definition is costly. And over the last 440 days, we have heard you in churches, in mosques, in synagogues, in the streets, in universities, in governmental buildings, in front of armed factories, protesting, organizing, lobbying. We have heard you, and today we thank you. Dear friends, it is indeed painful that we live in a time when a genocide is committed before the eyes of the world, and we feel powerful to stop it. And today, as we gather around Christ in the rubble, we remember the children of Gaza. We remember the children of Bethlehem before them, and many others around the world who have fallen victim to the tyranny of Herod and his modern-day counterparts, the massacre of innocents. A voice was heard in Ramah, the prophet cried thousands of years ago, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her sons and daughters and refuses to be comforted because they are no more. A voice was heard in Bethlehem, and today we hear the same voice in Gaza, weeping and great mourning. We weep, we are crushed, we suffer, and we cry out, how long, O Lord? Why, O Lord? Why do you allow this, and why do you remain silent? Humanity has chosen Herod's path. Humanity glorified power and cruelty. It glorified domination, greed, weapons, and even the annihilation of others. Herod, unfortunately, tragically, is neither the first nor the last. This is the logic of empire. And in the logic of empire, we have fashioned God in this image, turning him into a god of war. But the question remains, why is God silent? And how long will Rachel weep for her children? How long will Gaza weep? We have continued to ask this question until we saw this God in his incarnation, sharing our same fate. He survived in his childhood, but not in his youth. As a child, he fled, becoming a displaced refugee in Egypt. But in his youth, he did not survive. He was crucified, executed, killed by the logic of empire, by the worship of power and extremism. Son of God shared our fate, our suffering, and cried the same cry we cry today, my God, why have you forsaken me? This is why we said last year, Christ is in the rubble. And this year we say, Christ is still in the rubble. The rubble is his manger. Jesus finds his place with the marginalized, the tormented, the oppressed, and the displaced. We look at the Holy Family and see them in every displaced and homeless family living in despair. In the Christmas story, even God walks with them and calls them his own. So today, let us reflect on the child Jesus, the child of Bethlehem. At the heart of the incarnation, there is a child. And this child, in his weakness, he is our hope. He is our consolation. He is our strength. This child, let us remember, this child shook Herod's throne when he was born. And while there are some who talk about their Roman Empire or glorify Herod as great, we are the ones who sing of a child born to refugees escaping a massacre. And you cannot worship both, by the way. I pray that the image of the child in the rubble will be deeply rooted in our hearts and minds way beyond this time. For Jesus was born among us and entered our world under the most difficult and harsh circumstances. His family suffered greatly to protect his life. The children of Bethlehem were massacred, but let us remember not all of them. Jesus survived this genocide. And Jesus survived by becoming a refugee with his family in Egypt. And then he returned to his land and his people, returned to serve, to build, to work, and to bring salvation and redemption. And in this resilient child and in his family, we find hope. For this child, whom we see today among the ruins, once stood before Pilate and Herod, and once faced death itself and triumphant, granting eternal redemption. And so with this hope and faith, we endure. We refuse today to despair, to surrender to despair, because our faith is the faith of the resurrection. From the midst of the rubble, a plant of life will arise, given the promise of a new dawn, the assurance of a harvest where justice and restoration will flourish, and the vine will bear fruit that nourishes generations to come. As the poet Mahmoud Darwish says, حبوب سنبلة تموت ستملأ الوادي سنابل. The grains of a dying ear of grain fill the valley with ears of grain. Today we embrace our calling in this wounded world and land. We insist on seeing the image of Jesus in every victim of oppression, marginalization, and violent ideologies of supremacy and empire. We will continue to declare the goodness and justice of God. Yes, it has been 440 days. It is 440 days of Palestinians' resilience, Sumud. Indeed, it is 76 years of Sumud. But we have not and will not lose hope. Yes, it is 76 years of an ongoing Nakba, but it is also 76 years of Palestinian sumud, clinging to our rights and justice of our cause. 76 years of praying and singing for peace. I was thinking about it. We are stubborn people. We continue to pray for peace year after year after year and sing about peace, and we will continue to do so. And we will continue to echo the words of the angels, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth. And today we say our faith in the God of truth and justice is our hope. Today we continue to cry out to him because we believe that he hears us and because we believe in his justice and goodness and because we believe in his solidarity with the oppressed. As the psalmist says, I know that the Lord maintains justice for the poor and righteousness for the needy. We will cling to this promise. And in our steadfastness, in our sumud, let us have eyes of faith to perceive and believe that every Herod will pass, every Caesar will fade, for empires have an expiry date. And let us remember that according to Jesus, it is the meek, not the powerful, who inherit the land. In our pain and oppression, we might feel that death has the final word, that Herod is sovereign. But through the eyes of faith, we see that God has the final word. And it is a word of life and light, not a word of death and darkness. So in Christmas, God has spoken, and the word is Christ. Christ is born, hallelujah. Peace on earth, hallelujah. May it be so today. Amen.
Strip the Band-Aid off. Let it all bleed out. No use in trying to heal. You're just burdening everyone. Too much time to waste. Why not just trivialize all sentiment? Why not just burn all efforts to the ground? You're quite useless anyway. Don't try to push it. None of it matters. Nothing ever will.